Welcome to Apache Karaf Essentials. I'm Jamie Goodyear. Today we're going to answer the question, what is an API gateway and why would an enterprise use it for AIs? Up next. Okay, let's get into this. The API gateway pattern is a way of being able to express you have a service that all of your clients and other services are going to come to this one place and be able to be routed, have the composition of different sets of calls and their aggregate results put together, and all of your policy enforcement. So this might be just as simple as having your client call the API gateway and it gets routed to the correct backend system, kind of like a proxy, or it's going to do a whole bunch of calls on the backend and give you back that composite result. Key to this is that we are orchestrating things and we have policy enforcement coming into the system. So let's just look at what our architectures look like before and then after we introduce this pattern. So you can imagine you have many departments and applications and services, and they all need to talk to the same set of other services, databases, possibly AIs, brokers, that kind of thing. Every single one of these routes, all these connections you have to be concerned about your security. So that's stuff like off-end, off-C, your resilience, all the ability for these systems to come back and work properly together and have good failover modes. Your management configuration. You are sharing out all sorts of accesses to all sorts of different departments. Could be things like your AI keys, and they're going all over the place. You have to maintain these things. And of course, the monitoring and logging of what's going on in your entire system. If you're a team that has been given the responsibility to host and manage a whole bunch of AI systems, this is going to be the pattern you're looking for to help organize all of this. So let's take a closer look at what the API gateway provides us. It's going to give us your key place to implement your off-end, offsets, that's your authorization and authentication capabilities. You're going to put in things even such as like an allow deny list, as simple as that might sound, to say like, hey, you can use this particular set of models. This other department, maybe they can't. SSL termination, so any kind of secure connections coming in, this is where you're going to keep up with all of your keys and just keeping everything on the same level playing system instead of having like dozens of systems you have to manage, maintain. From a pattern level though, operationally, we're going to want to put our rate limiters into our gateway. Circuit breaker patterns. That's the idea that if one piece of a service goes down, we don't have that domino effect of everybody else going down yet. It allows you to segment out certain flows to give you security. Security here meaning that you don't have a rolling denial of service attack. Caching. If certain calls are coming through, you can put caching on particular endpoints and be able to save out that response and thereby saving calls to the backend. Feature flags, the ability to turn off and on the brand new features. You can just do this at runtime and not have to have full deployments out of whole systems. Really good thing to use. Protocol conversion. You might be having like a JAX-RS RESTful service that gets converted to JMS messages going out to some backend system, or maybe it's SOAP converting into some other protocol. The routing, of course, being able to say, hey, I want to be able to use a model. I don't need to know about is this on-prem, is this in the cloud. This is where you hide that bit of background information, and then you don't need to distribute your keys, and you can manage things closer here. Policy management, of course, anything that you have to do as an enterprise is saying these are routes and services that you're allowed to use. All of that can be implemented here. And then the final one I have listed here is bulkheads. Again, another one of these patterns that we want for resilient systems. We also include that we can include our monitoring of the system. So all these different services departments that are coming through wanting to use things such as AIs in the background, we can now monitor which groups are using it the most. Logging all of these requests and responses coming through is centralized into one spot. And given we have that, this is a logical place that you might want to draw reports from. Now, let's get a little bit more focused on having AI systems. Of course, we have them in the cloud, or they could be on-prem. I'm going to talk a little bit more about on-premise than on the cloud, but this will work for both sets. In the case of your cloud providers, of course, we are going to want to make sure that we have our API keys locked down. We don't want to have to share that out to dozens of different groups. The more it's being distributed, well, what happens when you get different set of keys? Now you have to distribute it around. There's more organization work. And then when we have it on-prem, well, we still want to be concerned about what's the performance of our on-prem AIs, and we also want to be able to lock them down. A lot of enterprises are starting to run these things on-premise, just so that way they know that any query they have, it's staying in their own shop and it's stuck within their own ecosystem. We don't want that escaping out to some other system. With that, we've put together a piece of code, and I kind of want to show you a demo of how you can start building one of these systems. Of course, every enterprise are going to have their own priorities and their own set of stack awareness they need to have. In our case, we are going to set one up using Apache Karaf as our runtime. We are going to use Apache CXF to provide us with JAX-RS, that's RESTful services. We could use JAX-WS if we want something like SOAP, but we're going to go with RESTful services for the purposes of our demo. And then we're going to use a keyed whiteboard as a whiteboard pattern in OSGI to allow us to have a plugin system. This plugin system will allow us to set up either different models, qualities of services, or just saying what provider. So we want to use, say, Mistral running on our own premise, or Mistral running on a cloud instance. We want to use something from OpenAI. We want to use some experimental model we have in-house. These are our way to be able to plug this into the API gateway, and then we just need to tell our developers, hey, here's a set of keys that you can use those to access our services. But we're not giving away like public access keys. These are just saying, hey, I want to have this particular runtime or this quality of service come through the system, and our backend will handle it for you. The secret sauce to all of this, of course, is using LangChain4j to handle all of our integrations to these AIs. So our OSGI system is giving us the plugins. LangChain4j is giving us the integration library that lets us talk to all these backend systems. With that being said, let's dive into the code. So let's dig into our demo code. We've already pulled from our Git repository our example application. You can download the code, clone it out from the show notes down below. Let's take a gander at each of these modules, at least the most important ones we need to look at in this particular video. We've created an API module, which has a very simple set of API requests and API response objects. Effectively, we're just going to be wanting to generate something from a prompt and get back the response. And then we have a backend implementation, which is going to include the simple RESTful implementation of taking in some JSON and replying back with some JSON. Underneath the hood, the special sauce we have here is a plugin system. It's based on the whiteboard pattern in OSGI. We're going to do a separate video on how that all works, but what you need to know is that it is a simple way of being able to write concise pieces of code to integrate to backend AI systems. At the very high level, it's a plugin system where you say, I want to generate based on some string and get a string back. And then the actual implementation will involve the use of Lang4j. And the way we do that is that for each one of our external connections, we're just going to use the Lang4j library to be able to handle making those connections for us. We're going to make this very configurable and use config-min inside of OSGI to be able to reuse some of this code and just be able to give it things such as what address do we find things at. So in the case of, say, using Ollama, we can have two different servers on our network, each running Ollama, but one of them being optimized to using Llama 3.2, the other one using Mistral, and we just can instantiate these plugins to say, hey, point to these different backend services. Of course, we could be talking to OpenAI or to something on local AI or some other LMM, but that's the general flavor of how those work. For those who are interested in some of these extra pieces we've added in here, we do have a features file. That is just our way to be able to handle the constellation of dependencies and transitive dependencies you need to install into the container to get all this up and running. Makes it really easy to tell the system, hey, go get all of this and get it all started. We also have created a simple command. This is a custom Karaf command. The reason we created this is that we could use curl or something similar to reach out and talk to our endpoints, but doing it from the Karaf console is certainly quite easy to show, and it makes it a little easier for developers to just log in and test things out quickly instead of having to also set up the complexities of a client side. We also have a iTest folder. What I like to do when I'm developing any kind of a larger project, I will set up this testing module that will take an Apache Karaf kit and allow me to put my feature into it, install and start that feature, and verify that my various modules are going to be loaded. In our case, we have our API implementation, the SPI, and our plugins. Anything that we want to be able to verify that does this actually wire up and set up correctly. With all that, we do have this all documented on our blog. You'll see this updated alongside with this video, but it also has here this useful little feature installation command that I'm going to copy now into our buffer so we can get into doing the real demo. Before we start the demo, let's take a look what's on our screen. In the top left-hand corner, we have our Karaf kit. You'll see that that's where we have our Karaf. We can start it up. I also have access here to its Etsy folder. We're going to take a look at a configuration file we have in place. Right now, it's configured to talk to what you're seeing here on our right-hand side, our Dell PowerEdge with the RTX 8 1000 system. That's that 8 gig video card. Below it, we'll see our AMD system that has the NVIDIA RTX A4000 card. That's a much more powerful GPU. In this bottom left corner, we have our code. So I'm just going to do a quick list of that. You can see is our project, and let's just start building this one out. This is going to take about a minute for all this code compile, run, load, and do its integration test. In the meantime, let's just step back and have a little discussion about what this API gateway is providing us. Imagine at your enterprise you have multiple departments and many client systems that need to talk to your backend AIs, or they could be in the cloud, but in our case, let's just look at our on-prem setup. You need to have all of your departments, all the different teams, all these applications handling the same sets of security, metering, logging, everything along the line of resiliency, i.e. your circuit breaker patterns, bulkheads, how you do your retries, caching. All of this will have to be replicated again and again. When you are doing this centralized in the API gateway pattern, this is a much more enterprise-friendly way of doing things. You now have all that policy management and control put in one place. So when you are running things and you have to introduce brand new policies like no one here is now allowed to use a DeepSeek R1 model, you can just go to the one spot and you can just literally remove that plugin. And there, everyone stopped from using that on your back end. If you had to do that group by group by group, now you're doing a lot more of overall orchestration here. Like many things we do in patterns, especially at the enterprise level, what we are doing here are solving for organizational challenges. And this is one of the things that this help us work through. So now we have the project has completely built. Let's fire up our Karaf. And we are going to wait here now for the Karaf console to come up. And then we're going to do the installation of our feature. So I already have here the repo add command. And what that is doing is saying, hey, go to this repository location or M2. I want to get the XML file that describes our entire constellation of dependencies. And it goes ahead, gets them, and installs, makes them available for us to install. So let's do the install command for our application, all demo. And what we'll see now is that all the things in that file are going to be downloaded and put inside of our running JVM. And when I do the list command, we'll see that we have all of our jars, our bundles have been installed, so the API, the implementation, our plugins, and all the dependencies required to run them. So let's start by asking our AI, and we're going to start by asking Llama, why is the sky blue? And what we're going to see here on the right hand side is that the NVIDIA RTX A1000 system is going to spool up as Ollama is spoken to. And there we see it. The GPU just spiked as Ollama is starting to process our query. And we get back a response on our console. Now, let's go and ask our Mistral system. And we're going to keep an eye out on the bottom right-hand side. We're going to see that system's fired up the larger model and given us back a response. Pretty cool. So let's go a little bit further into this. I want to open up in Notepad our plugins configuration file. And we'll see in here that we have listed out the address to where we want to talk to Llama or to Mistral. In the case of Llama, I'm going to replace that with our local host because we have Llama running on this laptop as well. So I'm just going to save this file and go back to our Karaf console and hit my log file just to show you that the system's automatically picked up that the config has changed and updated our plugins. I'm going to run our command to talk to Ollama once again, but when we do this, I'm going to have open the task manager for a local run, and we're going to see the CPU spike as we ask the local Ollama, why is the sky blue? And there we can see the CPU spiking on the laptop, and we should see a response in a moment. And there it is. As you can tell, running Ollama on this Snapdragon ARM PC is a little bit slower than running it on the full Dell server with the RTX card. That being said, this is starting to show you the power of this setup. We can reconfigure our systems dynamically as we want to add brand new approved models. We can introduce them as plugins or via configuration, or if we have to implement additional plugins to put them into the system. It gives us that command and control to be able to say, hey, this is what we want our systems to be doing, and we have all this being logged at the level here of our API gateway. So this is a pretty sweet pattern and a really great way for enterprises to be able to help manage the complexities of operating all these systems. Now that we've completed our demo, I want to draw attention that we are going to do a future video on the whiteboard pattern and explain more about how the plugin system works and how you can implement those for your own projects. And then we're going to show you how to do custom Karaf commands. They're a really useful thing if you want to be able to dial into your JVM and just execute something against your backend services without having to set up front-end clients. After that, I want to also draw attention that we have our Apache Karaf Essentials playlist on our Savorg channel. Excellent place if you're looking to learn a lot more about how Karaf works. Please check those out. With all that being said, please also remember to like and subscribe to our channel. We love to hear from you. Please put lots of comments down below and have a great day. Cheers.